Hola, hola, hola y bienvenidos a otro episodio de Listen, Read, Interact. This is episode number 63 of the Listen, Read, Interact podcast. My name is Andrew Snyder and I'm the host. Listen, Read, Interact is a podcast for Spanish language learners, and it is an interactive podcast. That means you can't just listen on your own. Well, you can. I take that back. You can listen, and that's all you have to do. But if you want to get more out of each episode, I highly recommend the show notes page because they accompany this episode. There's a show notes page that accompanies each and every episode of the Listen, Read, Interact podcast, and it's a great tool for language acquisition. Each episode is divided into 3 parts. So there's a beginning, middle, and an end. The beginning part is kind of to help you get familiar with some vocabulary, to use it in context, to hear it in example sentences. Really, the name of the game in terms of language acquisition is getting lots and lots of comprehensible reps. Lots and lots of reps where you hear Spanish and understand it, where you read Spanish and understand it at a high level. And so part 1 aims to kind of introduce you to some vocab, let you use it a little bit, and then you'll hear it in some example sentences, which you can read on the show notes page. They're in a blue box. It says ejemplos. If you're a teacher, they have a great mode for the classroom called classroom mode. So if you get to that blue box and then you're teaching a lesson, let's say, and you want to do a dictation, these are fantastic for that. If you're a learner and want to do a dictation, awesome activity. I love that activity, and it's a great resource for you as well because the ejemplos starts out displaying just one of the example sentences. There happen to be 8 for today's episode, and it starts out just showing you one, though. So you can click to expand and see all of them. You can click each individual example or tap on them, and it will reveal the translation. So you'll be able to see more language in context. And that is kind of the bread and butter for that first part. We want to build up a little bit with some familiar, maybe unfamiliar vocab, make it a little more familiar to you, and then really hammer it home in those example sentences. Then there is another way to interact, some order the words type thing. I love that activity as well. I use it all the time in my college classroom. I've been teaching Spanish for a long time, and that's one of my favorite ways to start a class, is have students have some jumbled up sentences. They have to put the words in order, and then we talk about different things together as a class. We go through them as a class, each one, and I teach some grammar along those lines. So that's a great activity. That's part 1. Part 2 is like the next piece. So once you kind of have some language under your belt for today's episode, then part 2 expands on that. And in my story-based episodes, because I'm starting to expand a little bit, and today's episode is a story-based episode, but there will be coming soon some grammar lessons, and you've probably already seen in your feed some bonus episodes that have more to do with culture. And so I'm kind of broadening the scope of the show, but the main bread and butter of the show will be the story-based episodes because I really like stories as a vehicle for acquisition. So part 2 takes the vocabulary from part 1 and expands it into a brief reading and several ways to interact with that reading. So there's a true or false quiz. There is some ordering again, but this time it's some sentences that are out of order and they form a paragraph together. There is also a survey, which lets you process more messages in Spanish, and all you have to do is read and kind of agree or disagree or select the frequency, whatever today's survey happens to be. Then part 3 builds even further, and part 3 is really what we're aiming for in each episode. So part 3 is a complete reading and interaction. A complete reading and interaction. So it takes the reading from part 2 and expands it even further, makes it a little more complicated, but still within reach. That's the idea. I want it to be within reach for all my learners. And so if you're able to do part 2, Part 3 is going to stretch you a little bit, but you'll be able to get there. Now, I love the show notes page as well because these readings are in their entirety on the show notes page. So you can read and listen along at the same time. Then there's going to be some quiz, a multiple choice quiz, some complete the sentence type activities, which you can do on your own, and some more open-ended questions at the end. Now, those are kind of optional, and it depends on your level. If you're a true beginner, are you going to be able to answer all those questions right away? Maybe. Maybe not, and that's fine. If you're a true beginner, though, I do recommend that you start with a different episode. And that episode is actually episode number 50. So you can go to listenreadinteract.com/50, and you can find that episode. Now, the other thing I need to mention is that the show notes page for this episode are listenreadinteract.com/63. listenreadinteract.com/63. Since this is episode 63, that's all you got to do. The URL, listenreadinteract.com/whatever episode number it happens to be. And there's also a link in your show notes page, in the episode description. So there's a link in the episode description below. If you're a true beginner and you want to really, really, really start out from the beginning, episode 50 is a great place to start. And I've actually bundled 6 of those together, 6 episodes for true beginners that are in order. And you can listen to them on the podcast player, 50 through 55. Or you can go to listenreadinteract.com/start. listenreadinteract.com/start. And the course called Start Here is just those episodes bundled all together in one convenient place so you can find them easily. They're also great if you're a teacher and you want to use those as lessons, have some pre-made lessons for yourself, or maybe you have a substitute that's coming to your class for a while and they need something to do, your learners need something to do. listenreadinteract.com/start. That's a great course for true beginners. If you don't know what your level in Spanish is, there is a link in the show notes page to a language proficiency, a Spanish language proficiency quiz to kind of see what level you are. And that's brought to you by the Tacoma Language Academy. That's my language academy that I do. And so you can check that out. You can also go to tacomalanguageacademy.com, tacomalanguageacademy.com. And it's right on the homepage there. There's a blue link. But there's a link in the show notes page as well. That might be easier for you to find. It'll say something to the effect of, actually, it'll tell you exactly what it says. It says, what level Spanish are you? It's a question in the links section right at the top of today's episode show notes. So listenreadinteract.com/63. All right. Con esto, vamos a empezar. Ejemplos. Soy bastante alto. Soy bastante alto. Soy bastante alto. 2. La gente en mi clase es simpática. La gente en mi clase es simpática. La gente en mi clase es simpática. 3. Uso el cerebro en la clase de matemáticas. Uso el cerebro en la clase de matemáticas. Uso el cerebro en la clase de matemáticas. 4. En el café le encargo un vaso de agua al camarero. En el café le encargo un vaso de agua al camarero. En el café le encargo un vaso de agua al camarero. 5. Después de correr, tengo sed. Después de correr, tengo sed. Después de correr, tengo sed. 6. Quiero un batido de chocolate. Quiero un batido de chocolate. Quiero un batido de chocolate. 7. En la escuela estudio 2 lenguas. En la escuela estudio 2 lenguas. En la escuela estudio 2 lenguas. 8. El camarero me mira con escepticismo. El camarero me mira con escepticismo. El camarero me mira con escepticismo. Lectura breve. Vivo en San José, la capital de Costa Rica. Me llamo David Esponja. Soy un hombre joven. Tengo 18 años. Trabajo mucho. Siempre llego a casa bien cansado después de un día largo. No soy rico. En realidad, soy bastante pobre. Además, soy feo, muy feo. La gente me mira y dice, «Uy, usted es bien feo». Soy alto y muy inteligente. Mi cerebro es como una esponja. Hablo 7 lenguas. Hablo español porque vivo en Costa Rica. También hablo inglés, portugués, francés, japonés, tagalo y vietnamita. Me gusta hablar. Hablo de historia, música, videojuegos y animales. Hasta hablo de Bob Esponja. Un día llego a casa y tengo mucha hambre. Quiero comer una hamburguesa, así que voy a un restaurante. Un camarero viene y me dice, «Buenas tardes, señor. ¿Cómo está usted?» «Buenas tardes. Tengo mucha hambre», digo. Le encargo una hamburguesa. Él me trae la comida y la pone en la mesa. La agarro y la como rápido porque tengo mucha hambre. Después de comer, ya no tengo hambre. Ahora tengo sed. Quiero un batido de chocolate, así que lo pido. El camarero me lo trae. Lo pone en la mesa y yo lo bebo rápido. Yo ya no tengo sed. Ahora tengo mucha energía. Empiezo a hablar en 7 lenguas. Hablo con el camarero en japonés, con la mesa en portugués y con el batido de chocolate en francés. El camarero me mira con escepticismo y dice, hay demasiado azúcar en el batido, ¿no? Listen, Read, Interact is a value for value show. It's a value for value podcast. And that means that I provide the value up front and I don't ask for anything in return, except that if you're finding value in the show, that you return value this way in some special way. And that could be your time, it could be your talent, it could be your treasure. There's many ways you could help. One way you could help the show greatly is by adding a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Or on Spotify or wherever you're listening. That's a very, very helpful thing you can do, and it just takes a little bit of your time, and that's a great way to provide value back to the show. Another way you could use your time is to share the show with your friends. So if you know somebody who wants to learn Spanish, just copy the link, listenreadinteract.com, and put that on one of your social networks and let people know that it's a way to get lots of quality, highly crafted input that's designed for learners. And so it's kind of modified input that is there for beginners and intermediate learners to help you bridge that gap. Really, you can never find enough material to listen to, never find enough material to read as a beginner in the language. You need to consume many hours of content. And so this show is a wonderful resource for people who want to learn a lot of Spanish really fast and want to just keep consuming content, getting that input required for proficiency gains. So that's a really good thing you could do to provide values to share the show with other people. If you're a teacher, putting it on for your students, let them know about it as a resource. That's also very helpful. If you're an educator, or if you, let's say you use stories as a way to teach language and you make stories with your class, like I do, that's another great thing you could do, is to share some of those stories with me, and we can put those out there so people can hear them and read them, and maybe we can even make some activities that go along with those readings. So that'd be a wonderful thing as well. Andrew@readtospeak.com. That's my email. Andrew@readtospeak, all one word, .com. And then the last way, obviously, is to support the show with some of your hard-earned treasure. If you're finding value in the show, and let's say you've listened for a bunch of episodes and you're finding value, please consider sending some value back this way. That's a really awesome thing to do because it helps keep the show going. I've got it in my head to do at least 100 episodes of this show, and I'd love to have it go on in perpetuity, but it's got to be something that I can spend the amount of time that I need to spend on it. And so I've committed myself to do 100 episodes, and then after that, it's going to be, hey, is the show being supported? Is it being used by enough people for me to continue on this effort? So if you find value in the show, I cannot determine the value that you get out of it. So that's something that you have to decide. Hey, I've been listening for X amount of episodes and I've learned this much Spanish. That's worth this much to me. And you can make a donation there's a show notes page link that takes you there. But you can go there directly at listenreadinteract.com/donate. There's links on the homepage too. So if you go to listenreadinteract.com, there's a link right at the top there that'll take you to the donation page. You'll see that there is a PayPal link, and there's a secure Stripe donation as well. You can donate any amount, any frequency, whatever the value is that you feel like you're getting out of the show is what you should donate back to the show. And, that's the beauty of it. So some people are not in a position to donate very much right now, but other people might have a lot of disposable income that they can use to help support a quality resource like this one. I really think it's a fantastic product. So that is where you can go. listenreadinteract.com/donate. Anybody who donates over $50, I'll mention you by name, amount, and location, if there is a location there. And just as a way of saying thanks, I'll read a short note from you if you have a short note for me. Anyone who donates under $50, I will keep you anonymous for reasons of anonymity. That's a little tautology there that I like. But I will keep you there as anonymous. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has donated in the past. And you really do keep the show going, especially those $4 weekly sustaining donations. That helps out a lot when times are slow. If everyone did that, that would really help out a ton and would ensure lots more episodes coming after the 100 mark. But here we are at 63. I've got, less than 40 to go to get that 100. And I really appreciate everyone who's donated in the past. So thank you so much. listenreadinteract.com/donate. Muchísimas gracias. Lectura completa. David Esponja. En San José, la capital costarricense, vive un hombre que se llama David Esponja. Es un hombre joven. Tiene 18 años. Son las 6 de la tarde. David llega a su casa cansado después de un día largo en el trabajo. David no es muy rico. De hecho, es bastante pobre. Además de ser pobre, David es feo. La verdad es que es extremadamente feo. La gente lo mira y dice, ¡uy, qué feo! Pero David es alto y bien inteligente. Su cerebro es como una esponja. Habla 7 lenguas. Habla español porque vive en Costa Rica. También habla inglés, portugués, francés, japonés y tagalo. Hasta habla vietnamita. David habla mucho. La verdad es que habla demasiado. Habla sobre la historia y los videojuegos. También habla sobre la política, la música y los animales. Hasta habla de Bob Esponja. Un día, David está en su casa y tiene hambre. Quiere comer una hamburguesa. Así que va a un restaurante. Un camarero viene a la mesa. Le dice: «Hola, buenas tardes, señor. ¿Cómo está usted?» «Buenas tardes. Tengo mucha hambre», dice David. «Usted está en el lugar correcto», dice el camarero. David pide una hamburguesa. Dice: «Le encargo una hamburguesa». «Por supuesto, señor». Así que el camarero le trae una hamburguesa. La pone en la mesa. David tiene mucha hambre. Agarra la hamburguesa y se la come rápido. Después de comer la hamburguesa, David ya no tiene hambre. Ahora tiene sed. Quiere beber un batido de chocolate. pide un batido de chocolate. El camarero le trae el batido. Lo pone en la mesa y David lo bebe rápido. David ya no tiene sed, pero ahora tiene mucha energía. Empieza a hablar en 7 lenguas. Habla con el camarero en japonés. Habla con la mesa en portugués. Habla con el batido de chocolate en francés. El camarero lo mira con escepticismo y dice, hay demasiado azúcar en el batido, ¿no? Bueno, eso es todo por el día de hoy. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. There'll be a new episode on Saturday. Every Saturday, there's a new episode. So thank you. And there might be some bonus content coming in the pipeline, especially as we start the new year. You'll start to see some more kinds of content that comes through the stream. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Muchísimas gracias y hasta la próxima.